Welcome, everybody, to the Straight Shooter Wrestling Podcast. I'm here with Steve, and we are about to talk about the breaking news of Stephanie McMahon stepping down as co-CEO of the WWE. Steve, how are you?
Not too bad, Santi. You ever thought you would ever hear what you just said come out of your mouth?
Well, to be fair, I never thought I'd hear Stephanie McMahon was the CEO because I thought that Vince McMahon had conjured some sort of voodoo to be able to be alive and be CEO for the entirety of the rest of humanity's lifespan. But nonetheless, she was CEO. Was the past tense because she just recently stepped down, leaving Nick Khan as the sole CEO of the WWE, and people are scrambling as if this is doomsday, as if the nuclear alarms have gone off and people need to get to their fallout shelters. What is your initial gut reaction when you hear this?
Santi, when it comes down to wrestling news and anything major that happens, every time it's the same reaction from the wrestling community and anyone who has been a fan, a lifelong fan of pro wrestling and WWE in particular. The sky is falling, the world is ending, and this is just the same as it was when Vince had the allegations put towards him. This is the same as when, John Cena was not coming back and staying in Hollywood. Like, oh my God, all these things are just the world is ending and let's go hide in a cave and bury ourselves or lose our minds and throw the first thing up we can think of saying on social media. Listen, this isn't going to be the worst thing in the world. Yes, a McMahon has stepped away from professional wrestling that was in a predominant position. We've seen it once with Linda, we've seen it with Shane, and now we're seeing it with Stephanie, and hell, we even saw it with Vince. But Vince is back. Nick Khan is now solo CEO, and we're going to be in for an interesting 3 to 6 months here, Santi. I think this is going to not rock the landscape of professional wrestling, but I do think we are going to see a dramatic change when it comes to WWE itself.
Yeah, I think this is just laying the groundwork for whatever the major news is, right? Whether that's somehow making Vince McMahon back as CEO and head of creative, or which is what I don't think is very likely, or the sale of the WWE to NBC, the Saudi investment group, whatever that might be, which I think is the most likely of all the scenarios. Prior to us jumping on this quick call, I did say to Steve, you know what, like it probably is just more difficult to sell a company if there are two CEOs than it is to sell a company if there is one CEO. I really think that these are just symptoms of the WWE shedding baggage so that they can sell the company as clean and as quickly and as pain-free as possible. Now, there is some additional news that's kind of bookend by the information that Stephanie McMahon has stepped out as co-CEO, which is that Vince McMahon has been unanimously voted as executive chair of the board of directors, which in itself is also very large news that seems to be getting kind of like swept under the rug amidst the Stephanie McMahon news. I think you were pretty on the nose with wrestling fans just kind of jumping to the doomsday scenario. I think, we all want to believe that it isn't true. The doomsday scenario isn't true, but yes, somehow we always jump to it. I don't think that this is doomsday scenario. I don't even think that this is going to be like that big a news in the long scheme of things, because I really believe that the intention of Stephanie McMahon being co-CEO was for there to be a McMahon in that role. But I think the day-to-day operations of the CEO was being done by Nick Khan. And I think that now that they're setting up the sales, it's like, yeah, okay, let's have Nick Khan there.
Yeah. Stephanie herself said in the first line of her public statement 8 months ago, she took a leave of absence, and within a couple of weeks she was forced into this kind of CEO role and bringing Nick Khan in to make it more of a permanent thing. And I think this is more of just a transition period for Stephanie. She can run the company. She's been in the business, in the company since she was like 14, 15 years old. This woman knows this industry inside and out, and honestly, like, she is the best fit for that transition period. I don't think we'd ever thought that Stephanie McMahon who wanted to take a step away from the business was always going to be a permanent, full-time 10-15 year run
Yeah.
into retirement. This was never her ambition. The one thing we can also say, and with to your point of having Nick Khan and a solo CEO involved, the other thing that has kind of been swept under the rug amidst everything that's going on in the back end of WWE has gone out and hired JP Morgan to help with
the sale,
potential sale
yeah.
of the company. So listen, everything you've just said with WWE potentially being sold, it's all falling into kind of play here. And I don't think the sky's falling. It sucks seeing virtually every McMahon not involved, because how good was the television and the storylines when there was always a McMahon involved? Somebody was going to get screwed over. And it kind of takes away from like my childhood growing up, because it was always a McMahon involved. If it was either Vince, Linda, Shane, or Steph, it was always something. And now that we're seeing that we're not ever going to get that, it's kind of like, I don't know, in a way humbling that like that kind of bit of it's gone. And I think it's going to make it easier for wrestling fans as well. If we do sell to Disney, I say we, sorry, if WWE does sell to, say, Disney, Netflix, NBC, the Saudi investment group, any of these major corporations, it's just going to be like the end of another era. And it's kind of hard. It's a kind of a hard pill to swallow. But like you said, like having a solo CEO involved is going to make this so much easier. And I think with Stephanie involved, if she had stayed, there would be a little bit too much of a personal aspect to it. And we all know the typical saying, personal and business, they just don't mix.
Yeah, I mean, I think I really don't think that the story really goes deeper than what we've already talked about. Like, I really think that the information at surface level is as deep as this really runs. I do believe that I don't believe that this is some sort of hostile takeover on the part of Vince or on the part of Nick Khan. I think it really is just cleaning house so that they can sell the home, right? Like you don't sell your house with all the shit in there, right? You sell your house after it's staged, after it's made to look beautiful. That's why JP Morgan is there. That's why, you know, you can have Stephanie McMahon step down. Everything is just being, all the I's are being dotted, all the T's are being crossed so that some giant conglomerate can buy the WWE. And I really don't think it goes any further than that. It's just, I think part of the reason why wrestling fans are just so, and listen to this big word, Steve, trepidatious. It's actually the second time I've used it today, weirdly enough. Trepidatious about all the changes that are happening is because it's so close to Rumble, so close to Mania, and those are the two biggest. That's Christmas for the WWE, right? Like that time period from the Rumble to WrestleMania, I think we all hold that as the most important time in a professional wrestling fan's year. Right. And seeing all of these changes that are auxiliary to the product, but can impact the product at any moment is scary because, you know, I think a lot of people, you know, are maybe thinking, oh, well, what if Vince comes back and Roman wins the Rumble or Brock Lesnar wins the Rumble, right? So I want to be understanding of wrestling fans being concerned about these changes, and we're gonna chalk it up to the time of year being Rumble in WrestleMania, because it's the one time of year that we just want things to go really, really well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the final thing is wrestling fan needs to really settle down, because all reports have shown that Vince is not going to come over and take over creative. He is solely just the executive chairman, and he's coming in to oversee with JP Morgan the sale of his company and the new TV rights. That's it. Hunter is still in charge of creative and content. So everyone settle down. The sky is definitely not falling on that side of thing. Yes, Vince is back, but Vince, would you want anyone else involved in the sale of your own company when you have grown it over the past 50 years? I think not. That's the one thing the final thing I want to say on this point. Everyone freaking out about Vince being back and Stephanie having to step down. Vince grew this from a small territory in New York, took over the rest of the country, and now has taken over the world, and now he's selling it. Hands down, he needs to be the one to put that final signature on the final piece of paper. That's it.
I agree. All right, Steve, where can people find you?
Guys, you can find me on all my platforms at Mr. Tesh. The one thing I do want to push is we are on Locals, straightshoot.locals.com. It is our new premium content where you will see interviews with wrestling content creators, celebrities, professional wrestlers, and have those direct interviews over on straightshoot.locals.com. You just have to follow if you're interested in seeing the exclusive content. There is a subscription fee. It's a minimal $5, but go over, check it out. We have just posted our Chris Van Vliet interview in full. Santi, what about you?
I was just going to say, still head on over to Locals. Like, even if you can't afford the $5, there's still stuff on there for all of our listeners. It's not just for premium content. So come on over, come take a look. It's a full community there. But yeah, like if you want to go that extra step and watch that premium content and help us out so that we can continue to make, badass content for you, head on over to Locals. The link will be the very top in the description of this YouTube page. I'm not going to plug any of my stuff. That's where I want you to go. I want you to go support us there, whether it's through the premium content or through being part of the free Locals community. Either or, we would love to have you there. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Straight Shooter Wrestling Podcast, and take care.